it's been our pleasure to introduce you. N. Venkatraman, sir, is popularly known as NV and one of the renowned senior Supreme Court counsel from Chennai. He has more than 30 years of experience. He is an authority in indirect taxation, direct taxation, international taxation, regulatory matters in telecom, gas, energy, electricity, and competition commission matters. He has appeared in more than 23 high courts, and he has appeared in all the 4 high courts of South India. He is one of the privileged lawyer. He has argued in full length in review petition in the Sabrimala case, one of very famous case, and he has recently argued a public interest litigation on child sex abuse. Filed a detailed document after considering the reports of UNESCO, UNICEF, and EU commissions. He has many credentials to go, which I'll share it with his permission. I'll share it for the group. Beyond that, he is the another part of it is he is one of the staunch devotee of the Sringeri Guru Parampara. And usually, like when we go with the profession, our spiritual path is usually neglected, but sir has been bestowed with the best of both the spirituality and as well as the professionalism. He has established a Veda Patashalam in Melamangalam near Periyakulam, and has more than 40 students have passed out of it. And another 50-60 students will be there any part of the time, and they teach both Rigveda and Yajurveda. In his father's village, to propagate the Sri Vidya Upasana, they have started a temple for the Bala Tripura Sundari temple at Kodi Mangalam. And beyond that, sir has been rendered many talks on the greatness of the Sringeri Guru Parampara. And recently he concluded the talk on the Panchadashi, one of the greatest work of the Vidyaranya, the 12th Jagat Guru, and the Karnataka Simhasana Pratishtapanacharya, whom we call Karnataka Simhasana of the Vidyaranya, has been rendered by sir. I'll not take much of his time, sir. It's a privilege to have you, and as you can see, it's a professional forum, and I seek you and I request you to conduct the program, sir. Thank you, sir.
Mala Sudha Kumbha Vibodha Mudra Vidya Virajat Karavari Jata Apara Karunya Sudambura Shimshi Sharadambam Pranatosmi Nityam Shankar Rupena Marchittam Panke Kritamabhutyaya Kinkariyasa Samaya Shankaracharya Mashraye Vivekinam Mahapragyam Dairyo Darakshamanidin Sada Abhinava Purvam Tam Vidyatirtha Gurum Bhaje Ajnanam Jannavitirtham Vidyatirtham Vivekinam Sarvesham Shupatam Tirtham Bharati Tirthamashraye Vidya Vinaya Sampannam Vitaragam Vivekinam Vande Vedanta Tattvakyam Vidushekara Bharati. The level 5 leadership qualities of Adi Shankara. This topic flashed into our minds when we read some time back a beautiful article by Dr. Ravi Gaur and his student, doctoral student, Bhavesh Kinkinwala from the Gujarat University. They had referred to a lot of literature and technical support and various articles, including the Anugraha Bhashanam of Mahasannidhan. Having that as a basis, we have tried to shape it in our own way and style to make it more adaptable to the listeners of today. What makes somebody a good leader? More so in a social organization, more so in a committed corporate setup where obligations are predefined. What strikes to us as good leadership quality is, first of all, a combination of someone being unassuming, selfless, and extremely confident. Somebody who has a combination of all these three virtues, which is clearly opposite to the normal virtues we find amongst present leaders in various setup, being extremely selfish, being extremely egoistic, and being extremely possessive and arrogant. So we have two contrasting styles of leadership in life. Adi Shankara represented the former school of thought. Please see his entire journey in Madhavya Shankar Digvijayam. Have you ever seen even a stray occasion where he has made a statement out of his ego? Has he ever remained selfish or self-centered to do something of his own choice? And had he ever lost his cool or confidence in his entire journey of 32 years? So this forms the first preliminary foundation of somebody being a good leader. Then take it further. Read the life of Adi Shankara. The twin objectives: unserving purpose for which he came. Unserving. Not once he decided to bend or bow or become brittle. Very simple. Why did Adi Shankara come to us as an avatara 1200 years back? Sanatana Dharma has all the richness of every religion. Somebody took the ahimsa part and made it into a religion. Somebody took the charitable aspect of it and made it into a religion. And somebody took the intellectual reasoning power of the religion of Sanatana Dharma and made it into a religion. But in the process, they shunned Vedas and they shunned gods and idol worship. So what happened over a period of time? Each one became their own commander of what is right and what is wrong. So ignoring Vedas, ignoring dharmas, you start propelling a point of view. At some stage, you will become so self-centered, arrogant, and egoistic, and what occurs to you right will become the norm for each one. This was the situation in the 8th century, which Adi Shankara tried to correct it. And that was the occasion and reason he was born in Kerala, at which point of time India or Bharata Desha had 72 different cults, one conflicting with the other. And his objective was to unify all the 72 into one. And did he achieve it? He did. He did. So the unserving purpose is the second quality of a leader. Now come to the third. It's not enough if you have a purpose. You must serve the purpose as your own duty. So, purpose coupled with duty, coupled with unassuming tendency, unselfish, and confidence, made Adi Shankara a powerful, towering leader. The opposite side, egoistic, self-centered, and arrogant, also becomes powerful leaders, which we are seeing day in and day out. So you have two sets of leaders who are powerful. But the difference between Adi Shankara and the rest, which we see today, is Adi Shankara was towering, powerful, yet benevolent. And he was compassionate. Whereas, if you become a powerful leader out of your own arrogance and ego, you tend to become authoritative and dictatorial at some point of time. See the entire life history of Adi Shankara. Cite one instance where he has been a dictator or he has been an authoritative enforcer of what he felt is right. So when these three combinations happen, you tend to become a good listener, you become patient, and you become tolerant. See the life history of Adi Shankara. Not once he failed to listen to the opponent's view. And he would always recommend the opponent to speak his view first, before seeking to correct him or mend him or align with him and bring him to his fold. So one who listens is basically patient and tolerant. And once you have tolerance, you get the natural ability to be friendly even with your adversaries, which is getting along with anyone is an important and vital leadership quality with Adi Shankara nurtured throughout his life. He had confronted 72 different schools of thought. But please show from his history somebody feeling so bad or speaking so ill of Adi Shankara after having Adi Shankara conquered his viewpoint. Not one. He got along very well with every one of them. And the most important quality which he possessed, which all of us should possess, is having all these rich attributes of leadership is not sufficient. You should combine it. All this will should combine with divine will. Unless you combine all your leadership virtues with a divine will, it will not mature into a performance or a success. Go back again to the life history of Adi Shankara. He had the darshan of Shiva, the darshan of Narasimha. Vamadeva, who was the student of Dakshinamurti, came down to serve Adi Shankara. He had the opportunity to debate with Bhagavan Vyasa. He went to his guru Govinda Bhagavatpada. He had a chance to debate with his guru's guru Gaudapada on his Gaudapada Karika. So, plethora of deities, plethora of gurus came in his life. Agastya extended his life from 8 to 16. Bhagavan Vyasa extended his life from 16 to 32. When he completed all his bhashyas, he said, my job is over. He said, no, it's half done. What you've written should be known. So go and propagate for 16 years. So all these attributes of a leader should combine with divine providence, divine will, and a mind to surrender. If a leader does this, if he is egoistic, he will become unassuming. If he is arrogant, he will become confident. If he is self-centered, he becomes unselfish. And then he becomes a listener. Then he becomes a tolerant person. He becomes a patient one, and he therefore gets along well with anyone. This is in sum and substance the leadership qualities of Adi Shankara. We'll come to level 5 a little later. Basic qualities. We can keep, see, Adi Shankara is an encyclopedia. You can take out 20 different verticals out of him and speak. He was the first multifaceted Jivan Mukta in the 8th century. Now, all of us know leadership is not just individuals, it is finally a team. How did Adi Shankara pick his team? The 4 Prathana Sishyas of Adi Shankara. See their attributes and their qualities. The first one to join Adi Shankara was Padmapada or Sanantana. He joined him in the Ganges. One fine day, he is from Tamil Nadu, Kaveri. In fact, Vidyaranya Maharaj writes about in the Madhava Shankara Digvijayam, what Padmapada says. He says, I hail from Kaveri, and one who drinks that water will become very, very devotional. All of you are very near to Kaveri. You should be proud to be near Kaveri. This is exactly what Vidyaranya Maharaj records. One who drinks the water of Kaveri is bound to become devotional in life. So he surrenders to Adi Shankara with a request to say, enough is enough in samsara. I want realization. So Padmapada is one who's tuned to the philosophy of Adi Shankara, namely self-realization through the Jnana Marga. And he went to him exactly to get only that and prayed for that guidance. And why did he become Padmapada? See his reverence to his guru. He was on the other side of Ganges. When Adi Shankara invited him to come, he started to put his foot on Ganges, thinking that when Guru can transcend us from this samsara and take us and migrate us into the path of self-realization, is it that difficult for a Guru to make me cross Ganges? So when he stepped into the waters, Mata Ganga started to place lotus flowers under his feet, and he ensured that he reaches the other bank. And he was therefore named as Padmapada. He was the first disciple. See the second Sishya, Sureshwara, a complete adversary at that point of time. When Adi Shankara said, it is jnana that gives you self-realization, Sureshwara said, it is karma that will take you to the end of the journey. So, two opposed, contrasting philosophies met each other. And you must know how Sureshwara is introduced by Madhava Shankara Digvijayam. Vidyaranya Maharaj writes, when Shankara went to his home to seek an audience, and then I want to debate with you, he was trying to find out his house. And you know how they guided him? People told him, you go there and you'll find a house where parrots speak about Vedas, parrots speak about karmas, parrots speak about dharmas. That's the house of Sureshwaracharya. A man of such an eminence, opposed to Shankara's ideal. So what did Adi Shankara do? Sat with him, debated with him, and ensured that he brought Sureshwara in line with his thought process to say, what you say is fair and right, but it is not the ultimate. The journey begins there. You have to travel through karmas. You have to perform your rituals. Karmas purify your mind, strengthen your mind, cleanses your mind, prepares you for the journey towards jnana. So it's not the be all or end all. And therefore, what he thought was an end destination is a beginning, and there is a long way to go beyond that. They could align it as one single streamlined wavelength. So an adversary was brought within his fold as a Sishya. Now come to the third disciple, Hastamalaka. Near Mukambika, in a village, he was a son to one by name Prabhakara. So Prabhakara one day took him before Adi Shankara and said, he is dumbfolded, he is lazy, he is an idiot, he doesn't know anything. Please help me, I can't have a son of this character. When Adi Shankara talked to him, who are you? The boy started to reveal that he is an emancipated soul and told him that I am nothing but the Atma. So Adi Shankara told his father, Prabhakara, and said, please let him not be with you because you don't know his value. Let him come along with me. So Hastamalaka, the third Sishya, is a completely evolved, emancipated soul at that point of time before joining his guru. And the last one was Totaka, who joined him at Sringeri. And all of us know Totaka was extremely devoted to his guru. He was not as intelligent as Padmapada or Sureshwara, or as evolved as Hastamalaka. All he did was mercifully holding the feet of Adi Shankara and did whatever service he can do to him. And what the story says this, when everyone was ready for the class and Totaka was elsewhere, Shankara said, we should wait for Totaka to come. Padmapada said, talking to this wall and Totaka is one and the same. Why do you have to wait? You know what did Adi Shankara do? Just glanced at Totaka. 14 Vidyas emerged in his heart immediately, says Madhavya Shankara Dikvijaya. This is a very important aspect which all of you as professionals, as businessmen, as individuals should know. The power of tapas, enduring tapas, what can it do? A tapasvi, if he just thinks good for you, may good things happen to him. Good things will start happening to you. That's the power of a tapasvi. He just glanced at Totaka. 14 Vidyas emerged out of him and he started singing the Totaka Ashtakam, the most difficult meter called the Totaka meter. So look at the team of Adi Shankara. One came with an idea to get emancipated. One is already emancipated. One was an adversary and one was only devoted to him. So if you want to have a team, you can't get a monotonous team. A monotonous team is no use. People having the same virtues and qualities don't make a good team. Your team should be a combination of varied skill sets, varied abilities. If somebody is very trustworthy, he may not be intelligent, doesn't matter. You also need trustworthy people to work for you. The most intelligent may not be trustworthy and sincere because he is guided more by his intelligence. Therefore, once you pick your team must have different skill sets, so that if you find what did Adi Shankara do, he harnessed all the four to reach the destination of winning 72 different unconventional thoughts and philosophies which was prevailing in India at that point of time. Used all of them. He did not leave one of them. And each one wrote different texts post their interaction with their leader. Each one contributed their might. Therefore, team building is something which each one of us should learn from Shankara Bhagavatpada. How he built a team is very, very important. Now, you have a powerful leader who is compassionate. You have a very strong team with different skill sets. When they combine, will they not produce, which will be at par or exceed the level 5 qualities of leadership? And see the history of Adi Shankara. Why do we say his leadership qualities are above level 5 leadership? Why do we say so? What do you mean by level 5? These are supposed to be the standards which we understand, all corporates, different sessions, different formats seek to portray these qualities as level 5 qualities. 1, a level 5 team doesn't take any personal credit for what it has achieved. See the beauty. See the reality in the world and see the requirement of a level 5 leadership. No claims made over the accomplishments that have been achieved. See what they say. Are you speaking about the leader and glorifying him or her? Or you speak about what has been accomplished and how did this accomplishment happen? What is your focus? If your focus is eulogizing your leader, then that's not level 5 leadership. It will not take you there. See the life history of Adi Shankara. When we talk of Adi Shankara, we remember his hymns. We remember his poetry. We remember his bhashyas. We remember his sutras, the commentary on the sutras. We remember ever so many things about him. We don't simply say Adi Shankara was our leader, mass leader, great leader. We don't say that. Whatever strikes is his achievements, his accomplishments. Leadership is visible, not leader. So this is one of the ingredients of a level 5 leadership. 2, once you don't talk about what you have accomplished, it is proved universally. Whatever you have accomplished as a leader along with your team will last longer, even if you as a leader move out of the scene. Have you not seen this? Hey, he created this system which is doing wonderfully. Yeah? Have you not heard that? So one who keeps tom-tomming, keeps a photographer around him, keeps a media around him, starts dishing out everything day in and day out, always tries to portray himself, can't stay beyond his own lifetime. Call is, you can always take a call. Yeah, I'm fine. I want to hear everything good about me in my lifetime. I'm not bothered about it. After what's going to happen after. Fine. That's one way of leadership. But if you just don't want this limelight, keep performing as much as you can and move away from the scene. What you have performed and accomplished will continue to be debated and talked and praised by people. That's the quality of a level 5 leadership. The third quality they say is, this is something so live in the life and teachings of Adi Shankara. You will be instrumental in a great transformation. Level 5 leadership is all about transformation. And what is the transformation? Transformation from bad to good. Transformation from evil to good. And you would be a party to a transformation which will look so correct, picture perfect at that point of time. You will be part of a transformatory process which will be much needed, and you would have delivered it, and world will acknowledge it as absolutely appropriate at that point of time. This is exactly what Shankara did. It's a renaissance where, because at that point of time, why did the non-religionists started to shun Vedas? Because rituals dominated the scene. They started to terrorize and create fear with rituals. Adi Shankara said, that is only to purify your mind. Jnana alone leads you to salvation. So when he revitalized and re-established that doctrine, after different multiple schools of thought, he remained there, and people found his logic, his reasoning, his doctrinal approach as perfectly valid and right. So he was part of a big transformatory process. Level 5 is all about that. Once you are a part of a transformatory process, then there is a huge difference between the two sets of leaders. An egoistic, selfish, and arrogant leader will be still a successful leader in modern life. Materially, he will be able to do some things because he's a leader. After all, people are around him. He will be a successful leader in his lifetime. But an unassuming, unselfish, and a confident, good listener, a compassionate, a powerful leader becomes not a successful leader, but becomes an accomplished leader. Accomplishment is a level 5 quality. He will stay in the pages of history as one who has accomplished. After 1200 years, Adi Shankara, we are talking about the qualities, rare qualities and the divine qualities and the leadership abilities and qualities of Adi Shankara today, after 1250 years. Because he remains and will remain as an accomplished leader in the field of spirituality. The next quality of a level 5 leader is this transformation will also result in creating a good new generation of good set of leaders. A good leader will lead and ensure he creates a good leadership to lead in the future. Level 5 requires that. Not to ensure that nobody is around him. He remains the leader till he dies, and ensure that there's a complete vacuum after him. Let people fight for their lives to come to leadership. That is not a level 5 leadership strategy. In your own lifetime, are you able to create somebody else as like you? See, why is Sringeri Parampara respected as a great Guru Parampara for 1200 years? What happened in the 8th century is happening in 21st century also. Each and every Guru is a tapasvi. Each and every Guru is in Brahmanishtai, is a jnani and a yogi. For 1250 years, this format has not changed. So it's like a relay race. The baton is passed, only the forms change. In fact, there's a very interesting episode. We can dish out thousands of such episodes. I'll just cite one for you, for your understanding. Somebody came before the 34th Acharya, Jagadguru Srimad Chandrasekhara Bharati Mahaswamigal, and he inquired to him, "Oh, you are Subramaniam?" Then the devotee said, "Yes, I'm Subramaniam." Then he moved. Then the author, who was doing some work, writings at that point of time, met him. He said, "Is your name Subramaniam?" He said, No, my name is not Subramaniam." "Are you coming from a place called Subramaniapuram?" "No, I'm not coming from Subramaniam." "Then why did you say Subramaniam?" And he said, "Yes." No, his guru, 33rd Acharya, who hailed from Mysore, Jagadguru Srimad Sachidananda Shiva Abhidava Narasimha Bharati Mahaswamigal, has initiated this devotee with the mantra Subramanya. And 34th Acharya is asking Subramaniam. And remember, if you go into the pages of history of Sringeri Mutt, 33rd Acharya and 34th Acharya did not meet each other. The 34th Acharya came to the Peetham only after the 33rd Acharya attained Videhamukti. They did not see each other. Therefore, it is a continuity of lineage. This transformatory process, which started in the 8th century, is sustained in the 21st century through the 36th Acharya, and the Obey Jagadguru has already been initiated into the process in 2015. The baton is ready. She'll travel forever, for times to come, for ages to come, as long as you stick to the 4 principles of what Adi Shankara said: yoga, jnana, brahmanishtai, and tapas. And therefore, the last two, very, very important. Level 5 is all about institutionalizing excellence. And leader having complete authority at a given point of time, but doesn't use it as a dictatorial process. Go to Acharya in the Darshanam. You will find him as the most compassionate. But because he is most compassionate, please attempt to take him for granted even for a second and see what the reaction is. Full authority, full compassion, but not dictatorial. And more importantly, whatever Bhagavad Padal wanted and established in 16 years, between 16th year and his 32nd year, sustains even after 1250 years, because he has institutionalized that excellence. And Sringeri Mutt, which is all very close to your hearts and very close to you geographically, is the first Mutt, and sustains it, his excellence. So these are the attributes of, say, leadership level 5. I have 5 more minutes, Doctor, and then I'll close it. So what are the takeaways? Ultimate takeaways, as what we do normally in our life. The takeaways are: 1, whenever you get the occasion to be a leader in whatever you do, try to identify the potentials of people around you. Adi Shankara did only that. See, Karthik, I have six minutes more. Do I have?
Yes, sir, you can go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, you can speak. No problem.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
See, I will, before I come to the takeaway, this conflict management, I should also, because today the biggest issue, challenge for any leaders is conflict management. Adi Shankara managed conflicts. He called Sureshwara and asked him to write a Vartikam, which means a critical commentary on one of his works. Immediately there was an objection by others, saying that Sureshwara has migrated from karma to jnana. And you're asking him to write a critical commentary on a text which is delineating on jnana. What is the assurance that he will start reiterating what he felt is right in Karma Kanda? So there was a big opposition. So everybody recommended Padmapada should do it. When Padmapada was summoned, exactly what happens today happened there. He said, if you feel that somebody has to do, why not Hastamalaka do it? Because he is already an emancipated soul. Adi Shankara, see how he discusses. See, a good leader is one. How does he manage conflict? When you manage conflict, you cannot put one down and raise one up. This is a very, very critical principle of conflict management. It is, if you meet with a conflict, it is unfortunate. But once you meet a conflict, you have to ensure everybody's ego is preserved. What did Adi Shankara do? He said, Hastamalaka is an evolved soul, but he believes in being in silence. He cannot externalize Advaitam. He is one who believes in reaching God. If you ask him to do a pravachanam on it, how will he do it? So we cannot, he is not fit. So he said, let not both do. So he gave a separate work. He asked Sureshwara to write Naishkarma Siddhi, and then he asked Padmapada to write another script. And after he completed it, he allowed Sureshwara to write Vatikam on two of his Upanishads, Vrihadaranyam and Taittiriya. So conflict management, what is important message in conflict management is, you should allow the conflict to die in such a way that everybody's identity is preserved. He did not enforce Sureshwara over Padmapada, or did not enforce Padmapada over Sureshwara. He said, let's avoid. Let's not do it now. Let's resolve it. Let's reserve it for a later date. So what are the takeaways? When you get a chance to be a leader, when you find a group of people, identify their potentials. That's one aspect which a leader has to do. Once you have identified your potentials, find out the assignment to which they will fit into. Find out the role for him or her. It's not enough you just identify and then put them lock, stock, and barrel in different places. Find out the role which can be assigned to them. If you do the first two steps, you will gain credibility as a good leader. And once you gain credibility as a good leader, start empowering your team slowly. Exactly what Bhagavad Padal did. He identified 4 of his Sishyas, assigned them different tasks, made them to go and sit in 4 different places as the 4 Amnaya Mats, and then made them to work, preach, propagate, through which his philosophy gained credibility. And he empowered all his Sishyas. And what did he finally do? Once empowerment has happened and they are able to take care of, Bhagavad Padal withdrew himself from the scene. A good leader is one who should be ready to quit after he has accomplished what is needed. He should not be going on holding to power. The tendency to stay on will not augur well. See, at one point of time, the reverse logic will start applying. The graph will start climbing down beyond a point. You should be able to quit when the graph is high. Shankara withdrew. And let me sum up with this saying. See, Durga, Lakshmi, and Saraswati are three deities which are close to our hearts. Saraswati gives you enlightenment. Durga gives you empowerment. And Lakshmi gives you enrichment. Now, there is an obligation attached to all the three deities as a devotee. If you try to own them as yours, they are very difficult to manage. But if you don't own them and be their custodians, if you are a custodian of empowerment or enrichment or enlightenment, each devata will handhold you, guide you, and make you go cross steps in life. On the contrary, if you start to own whatever, it's knowledge, I own it. Money, it's my money. If you start owning it, then along with it, you will have to own crookedness, cunningness, hardness, cynical, non-compassion, all because you own. Adi Shankara had done so much. Has he made any copyright issue anywhere? No. It's all contributed to the wisdom of the world. So, if you don't own and start doing things, magic will happen through you. Adi Shankara has taught all this to us and much more. Today, we could see Shankara Bhagavad Padal through a small window of what he is. This is not Shankara Bhagavad Padal. A small window, maybe 0.0001% of what he is to all of us. But having defined a topic, we should confine to the topic. And therefore, what is important is, let me close with this, because most of you are from Bangalore. Institutionalizing excellence, very difficult and rare. Show me, let's work through history. We don't say it with pride. We say it with humility, but we say it with deep, sincere bhakti and devotion and being very fortunate. You cannot find an institution which is 1,200 years old, blemishless, and an institution which continues to impart the human touch, the compassion. Adi Shankara has laid down 2 ground rules for every Pitathipati of Sringeri Math. When people, a Sishya who is competent to reach a Jivan Mukta state should be elevated to the Jivan Mukta state. Every Acharya has that competence. Acharya said that in his speech in Bangalore in 2015. This Pitam has the ability to initiate Sishyas and transform them into Jivan Muktas. So this is for the most competent. But what about ignorant? For every Sishya who is otherwise not so competent, Shankara Bhagavad Padal has said the Pitathipati should be an ocean of compassion. And the Pitam runs on these 2 wheels for the last 1,200 years. I thank once again the Triple V, the VPF, and the Triple B, and the various individuals who had asked me to come and speak. To speak about Bhagavad Padal, it's most joyous moments in our life. To speak about our Acharya gives the immense pleasure. And I once again surrender the entire talk at the lotus feet of Mahasannidhanam, Jagadguru Srimad Bharati Tirtha Mahaswamigal, and Sannidhanam, Jagadguru Srimad Vidushekara Bharati Swamigal. Humble pranams. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for the wonderful talk. We have many questions coming.
I'm ready. As long as you all have time.
Sir, first I'd like to say, sir, we all have seen Shankara Bhagavad Pada in a divine form, but putting us the perspective of Shankara Bhagavad Pada as a leader of par excellence is something which most of us is unheard of. We are, as you truly said, leadership is visible, not leader, and institutionalizing the excellence of institutionalizing the institution of
Excellence.
par excellence. And what we are seeing is in the divine feet of Mahasannidhanam and Sannidhanam, the leadership is truly intact, and we are really humbled to have you on our show, sir. Thanks a lot. Sir, we have some questions. Mr. Anand Desai, in the beginning, sir, you had said if there is a God's divine will. Sir, they just want some example on this, how it comes and how can we experience it. And also the continuation part of the question is, are the leaders made or the leaders born? By just reading the management things, can we become a leader?
See, I'll take the second question first and develop it into the first question. Each one has a different point of view. There is no one concrete answer, but somehow I'm always guided by the thought process that destiny drives you based on your karmas. This is now how you work yourself there. All of us are gifted with a free will for the present birth, and we inherit the past karmas based on which this present body, mind, and intellect is given to us. So there is a free will and there is a fate. So how you drive, in what combination you drive, essentially is your choice. So whether you are born as a leader or you use your free will to become a leader is your choice. So there is no one concrete answer to that. But coming to divine will, this is something where we can say this with some certainty. The more and more you suppress and you dissolve your ego, the more and more you will find in your daily routine divinity helping you beyond your expectations. You will have a time crisis to meet some time deadline. You will be simply stuck there. You will be in a prayer. You will simply say, I just don't know what to do. Some time extension will come your way. Don't ask how. See, all of us are connected to the universe. It's a Vedanta subject which I'll deal it on some other day when an occasion comes. But for the time being, how will you experience divinity? Till you feel you can control the situation, you can handle the situation, you are not going to experience divinity. The moment you say, whatever I'm able to do, I do it as a duty, but something has to take control over me, give that leverage into your daily work and routine. As doctors, how many times you would have seen miracles happening in the operation table, in your diagnosis, in your consultation, in suddenly patients getting cured. You will attribute it to yourself, that's your call. But if you find something happening beyond your effort, then give that moment of happiness and call it as divinity and keep expanding it slowly in your life. You will have more and more such moments coming in your life. And how did Shankara? He got Shiva to guide him. He got Vyasa. He got Gaudapada. He got Govinda. Narasimha, when see his level. How will you see divinity? The Kapalika said, I need a head of a king or a head of a saint. Getting a king's head is difficult. I want your head. Are you ready to prepare to give? He said, this body is going to anyhow perish. Let it perish for you. It doesn't matter. Come, but don't tell my disciples. So he went into meditation and said, cut my head. I'm ready to sacrifice. So he did not he did not plan how to ensure that my head is not cut. He said, take it. And what did he do? But Narasimha came through Padmapada and vanquished the Kapalika and saved the life of Shankara because he has a mission still to complete. This is the power of divinity which Mahadeva Shankara Digvijayam says.
Sir, the second question is from Arun Iyengar. Is leadership is all about the sacrifice?
Good. See, it's a very good point. That should be one. In fact, the takeaway when I say start to withdraw. See, sacrifice, the word sacrifice has two components, according to me. One is the power to renounce. Another is the mind to surrender. The power to renounce comes when you do your own work as a duty or service. That's what we call it as the karma yoga. You can do every work as a karma with attachment to it, or you can do every work as a yoga without attachment. The ability to renounce. That is the component, one component of sacrifice when you do the work. This comes out of the ability to renounce. The second component of sacrifice is the ability to surrender to a higher force. Now, the ability to surrender comes only via bhakti. That is why Shankara always says, what purifies you and what strengthens you is do your daily work with an ability to renounce. Do your daily prayer with a mind to surrender. Once this two starts to blend in one's life, then he or she will start sacrificing everything around them. And if you are a leader, if you are ready to sacrifice for your team, ready to sacrifice for the cause, which is exactly what Shankara did, then you will remain as an accomplished leader all throughout your life and even after that. So sacrifice is a very important component for leadership.
Sir, can you shed some more light on conflict management, sir? Because few of our viewers felt is postponing a part of the conflict management, or just keeping it in the back burner is the conflict management.
Now, go ahead. If you want to say something, please say. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. So we just want some more perspective on the conflict management, because it's the most important thing that
I can say something about it. Witnessing personally, experiencing it personally in the hands of divine will of Acharya, and studying the life history of Adi Shankara. See, conflict management has several parts. From what I could see from the life history of Adi Shankara, he had a desire that one of the Sishyas should write a critical commentary. And now he finds opposition to that. So there is a conflict. He wants A to do. Rest of them say A is not the right person to do. So they are questioning the wisdom or decision of the leader. Now, if you still enforce A should do and put your foot strong, rest of them are going to be unhappy. If you yield, okay, let the rest of them do and avoid A, then your wisdom is getting assaulted. So in that situation, first of all, you have to take a call, let this not be done now. What is the other option you have? You can enforce. If you enforce, then you can become dictatorial. See, ultimately, in a team, a good, shrewd leader is one. Even if somebody is wrong, does not offend his ego, brings him or her around, and after a while, when he or she is calm, try to say that he or she is wrong. It's a very crucial step in conflict management, which is exactly what Adi Shankara did. And what did he do finally? He called Sureshwara after he has written the text on Naishkarma Siddhi. He said, you please write a Vartikam, both for Brihadaranyaka Upanishad and also on Taittiriya. He gave them that work. And Sureshwara cursed Padmapada. And that's why Padmapada's work of this Panchapadika was only left incomplete, for which Adi Shankara said, you will, for your prarabdha, you will be born as Vachaspati in the next birth, and you will write a text on all, you'll write a commentary on all my works and attain your happiness and salvation, and people will remember you for posterity. Vachaspati is still remembered today. So it is not a question of postponement or deferment. It's a question of handling the crisis without hurting anybody's ego. You should see it from that point of view. is what Adi Shankara has taught us.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Murli, Dr. Muralidhar has some questions for you, sir.
Yeah, please.
So, namaste, NV sir, namaste, and it was a very, very useful and very apt lecture for the present day, and for all of us who are owning our own organizations. And catching word which was told by you was institutionalizing excellence, and it was a fantastic, I think, phrase which everyone should adopt in our institutions. So that is one of the nice thing. And I've been reading the messages, chat box messages, and everyone has appreciated your talk and your definite, the definitive, what you can say, the proposals by the Adi Shankara, and how level 5 leadership is very much required in our present day activities and to run institutions of our own. So I think we can emulate so much from Adi Shankaracharya, and I think all those points you have brought out very well. And I want to just thank one Mr. Subrat Kumar, who came from Bhubaneswar, who attended your lecture.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Subrat.
Very nice. There were people from Madurai, and it was so nice, that your talk has been received all throughout, maybe country. And I really appreciate the presence of many of our Vipra Vaidya Vedika members. Dr. Gururaja Rao is here. He is one of our ex-UD members. He's a professor in dentistry and has worked as principals at various colleges. So thank you very much, NV sir, for I think giving your excellent talk. One of us, we have thoroughly enjoyed your talk, which is very, very relevant. And I think if a few points at least we can adopt in our day-to-day activities in our institutions, I think that makes a huge difference in our conduct of whatever our profession. And I think Dr. S. Murali, I don't know whether he is there, he has asked whether Sureshwaracharya and Mandan Mishra are same or something.
Yeah, they are one and the same. Yeah, Mandan Mishra was his Purvashrama name.
Yeah.
They are one and the same. Sureshwara was the title given to him on his attainment of sannyasahood.
And Satish Kadakwala asked, who am I? That was the question. No, everywhere we ask, who am I? Why I have come to this probably earth?
It's it's an answer in Vedanta, but his question is well directed. You are not the body, you are not the mind, you are not the buddhi, you are not the intellect. And you keep exploring, you will finally end up in realizing that Brahman, we are nothing but Brahman.
Yes.
The whole process of Advaita is non-dual self. Second doesn't exist, and whatever we think it is second is nothing but illusion.
Yeah. Very nice, sir. Very nice. I hope we have come to the end of the session. Everyone cooperated very well. Thank you, everyone. I request Karthik Pandit to call Dr. Bhanu for giving the vote of thanks.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for a wonderful talk. It was a truly eye-opener. I talk Dr. Bhanu Prakash to conclude with a vote of thanks.
Dr. Bhanu, please.
Thank you, Dr. Muralidhar and Dr. Karthik. Good evening, Vipras. At the outset, I would like to thank our guest speaker, Sri NV, for his enlightening and illuminating talk on Adi Shankara and the management part of it. It was a really great talk. 250 people had attended the session at one time, and I think that speaks volumes of the interest that was shown by all the people. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. I would then now thank the office bearers of VVV, VBF and BBB. Without telling the names, the list is long for the short of time, for having come out with this innovative idea of a spiritual talk for the professionals. And I think the number and the participation shows what the importance they have attached for this talk.
Definitely.
I would like to thank all the participants for having joined this to this program and having interacted positively with the speaker throughout the session. Thank you very much. Thank you one and all for the great program.
Thank you very
Thank
much,
you,
sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Namaste.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.